So day 6 of the Nightfall project. I've run all of my blades through the tumbler and not entirely happy with how they came out. It wasn't actually the tumbling itself, but some of the prep that I did beforehand. The trick about tumbling is that you're always trying to create this nice matte surface, and there's some things that it'll obscure, but if you leave big scratches in there, it'll look terrible. And there was one surface on the top of the blanks or the blades that I just didn't really clean off and doesn't look very good. So I'm gonna have to run those through. That'll probably take a good chunk of the day. So that means that I'm gonna be working on other things today, probably finish up these 2 custom blades that I've got, do some driving around and buying stuff. So some days you feel really focused and productive, but some days you just kind of feel like you're slogging through mud, and I have a feeling this is gonna be one of these days. Cool thing tomorrow, though, I'm going to be going up with a buddy of mine to the Big Blue Power Hammer, I don't know, factory, facility, shop, whatever it is, and going to take a tour of that. So tomorrow I'm mostly going to be just driving, but the day after that I'll actually take the tour of the facility, and we'll report back on that next week probably.
Oh man, that water's cold. It was in the low 30s when I walked into my shop today. I'm cleaning off the slurry that builds up on the blades after tumbling. Not super fun on a day like this. But let's back up. One of the dirty little secrets of knife making is that a lot of the coolest parts of knife making are actually not that hard. And the most boring parts of knife making are often nightmarishly difficult. Chances are, anything you see on Forged in Fire, where there's all this sparks and flame and stuff, is not that hard. I'll put aside grinding bevels. Looks cool and also fairly high skill work. But finishing, all the polishing, grinding, blending, smoothing, buffing, all this general fussing around at the end, it's just spectacularly uninteresting to watch. And, some of it's just elbow grease, but some of it has some pretty tricky technical aspects. If you want to sell knives for thousands of dollars, fine, that's what you got to do. You want to see me working on one of my high dollar Japanese style blades, it's just days and days and days of but that's not what we're doing here. If you want to sell knives made in the USA and not charge thousands of dollars for them, you have to constantly be on the lookout for ways to get predictable finishes that also don't eat up huge amounts of labor. So that's what I'm aiming for here. Now, the first few approaches I took to tumbling were not up to snuff. Among other things, you can't hide sloppy grinding by tumbling, and I'd neglected a couple surfaces where I was grinding them. Just totally forgot that I'd stopped at a relatively heavy grit on the top surface of the blade. So, got to back up a step, fix them with my old standby finishing belts, 3M Gator grits. Then kind of evening everything out with the abrasive blast cabinet. This means I'm actually creating more work than the old approach that I took to finishing my Tactics blades. But if all goes well, I'll produce a smoother surface that doesn't take scratches quite as much or fingerprints, all the stuff that have kind of dogged me for the approach that I've been using for the past few years. So after that, back into the tumbler. Once the blades were back in the tumbler, it's time to finish up these 2 custom knives that I've been slowly pushing through production. If you haven't been watching this series, you'll notice that even though these aren't crazy complicated or fancy knives, they really take a while to get done. Each one is a one-off, so every hole you drill involves decisions, compromises, little improvisations, but still much more complicated to make than a straight production knife. But anyway, I've got them pretty much knocked off now, so I'm testing out the little photography carousel that I made yesterday. Again, I'm working on a video about that. Now, detour to Home Depot, get back home. You know, I mentioned earlier how cold this shop is. Bought a little propane heater. Another dirty little secret of knife making is how much time you spend driving around going to Home Depot or Harbor Freight or whatever. Sometimes you need a tool or a screw or something and you just can't wait 3 days for it to come from Amazon or MSC or something. Every knife maker I know wishes they spent more time making knives and less time doing email or driving to Home Depot or putting things in shipping boxes. But unless you got quite a few minions, which I do not, you just have to do it yourself. Back from lunch, here's a fun thing. Most of my Tactics Armory blades are stainless steel, but I made a couple of semi-special order carbon steel variants of the Nightfall. I haven't shown much of that process because it's up to this point pretty much the same as the other ones I'm doing. Anyway, I'm heat treating them with the forge instead of the heat treating oven. Why? Because it's more fun. It's that simple. If you can't have fun with a job like this, there's really no point in doing it. A lot less stress working at the water treatment plant or clearing brush for the state DOT. Of course, we're all getting fabulously rich making knives. So, for the irony challenged, I literally don't know anybody who's getting rich making knives. Late afternoon, I've taken the Nightfalls out of a second round of tumbling, cleaned them off. Yes, that's a toothbrush. Lo and behold, they came out just the way I wanted. I'm looking for a very low reflectivity finish that's even and smooth so it doesn't take up a lot of fingerprints and dirt. This is really looking pretty promising.
Well, I was feeling a little doom and gloomish this morning, but actually got a pretty productive day. This is kind of an amusing little thing. I finished up the custom work that I was doing, these custom knives that I was doing for a friend of mine. And so I'm putting them on this little display carousel thing. This isn't really part of the whole Nightfall project series, but this past weekend I made this little carousel just for yucks. You know, one of the things about making knives is if you pay the mortgage with it, you got to sell them. And so taking good pictures of them and having, you know, jazzy little things to put on your website and all that kind of thing, that matters. And so I made this little carousel for that this weekend. And, you know, it's kind of cool little thing. As far as the Nightfall goes, finally making progress on the tumbled finish. I wasn't too happy with exactly how it came out at first, and there were a few little details that I kind of messed up. But it's one of these things, when you do something new, you just know you have to build in a little extra time to get it figured out. Sometimes you just don't figure it out at all, and you have to go another direction. In this case, I think it's really worked out well. I think this is going to be an upgrade over my old finish. My old finish had some cool advantages, but I think this is going to be better. So we'll finish out this whole batch. I've got a whole bunch of them still in the tumbler, and tomorrow we'll get them laser etched with my new logo on here and put the handles on them. Hopefully we'll have knives ready to go tomorrow. All right, guys, see you then.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. You know, I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.